A class action lawsuit filed against Tom Brady, Kevin O'Leary, most people in the NBA, it feels like, and a lot of others, pretty prestigious, pretty big names, celebrities who got caught up in the FTX fiasco. Before we get to the class action, which you can see here, includes one of SBF's tweets right on the first page, let's check in with several of the people who are named in the class action lawsuit. Starting with Tom Brady. He was involved in a commercial that supported FTX, and it looked like this.
So you know he's going to invest better, too.
FTX, that's the crypto app, right? Now it's for all kinds of investing. It's better. And I like better.
Because the best are never done getting better.
Sure? Not a trade. I'm trading crypto. FTX is the safest and easiest way to buy and sell crypto. It's the best way to get in the game.
He's trading crypto.
Oh.
He's trading crypto, bro. Don't bother him. He's trading crypto. And he always likes to get better. That's Tom Brady. You got to appreciate, you get sponsors. You got to sell your sponsorships. And, RobertLikesGold.com, PoorPatriots.com. Use promo code Robert. You see how it works. It's very important to, engage with your sponsors and so on. Here is Kevin O'Leary, who is saying, yeah, I actually worked pretty closely with FTX. And it's a pretty great company because Sam's parents are lawyers.
In managing the decisions on which projects to invest in, because I'm very fortunate, my deal flow is insane. I see everything. Mm-hmm. And I have to disclose, I'm a paid spokesperson to FTX and a shareholder there too.
Shareholder too.
Them, and big advocate for Sam because he has two parents that are compliance lawyers. If there's ever a place I could be that I'm not going to get in trouble, it's going to be at FTX. So
any place that you'll be safe, FTX, very easy. Don't even think twice about it. His parents are lawyers and you can trust them. Now, a lot of other people had questions about this. The CEO of Coinbase is one of them. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase had a lot of suspicions about SBF and FTX. He was wondering, where'd they get all this money? How did he have all this liquidity to just dole out tens of billions of dollars to everybody, everywhere?
I had to scratch my head a bunch of times, and I was like, where is this guy getting all this liquidity? Because he was like buying 9% of Robinhood. He was putting like $1 billion into this. He was donating to all these politicians. And I was like, it did not make sense to me where he was getting all this cash. People just kept telling me, oh, his market maker Alameda is just printing cash. And I was like, okay, I guess, it seems like a conflict of interest to own an exchange and a market maker. That's why we haven't done it, but more power to him, I guess. And so I was surprised. I didn't speak up. I can't explain the psychology of it at this point, whether he's a pathological liar or if he's started off good and somehow under the pressure of this whole thing went bad. But the minute you can go watch the interviews,
or it was all by design.
He's lying to people about why he's bailing out Voyager and BlockFi and he knew at that time that most likely he knew at that time that they were not solvent. Alameda was not solvent, and so that's where he crossed a major line in my
major line, tens of billions of dollars gone. And a lot of people had questions about what happened. So we'll take a look at the class action lawsuit because there's some fun stuff in here. We can see it is 41 pages. And so we'll see what we get to here today. A class action lawsuit filed against Sam Bankman-Fried, jury demand included, 41-page document filed out of the Southern District of Florida in Miami. Starts as follows. It says, with a quote from Mark Cuban from November 12th, 2022. Mark Cuban said, then there's things that have happened with Voyager and with FTX now that somebody's running a company that's just dumb as F greedy. So what does Sam Bankman do? He's just give me more, give me more, give me more. So I'm going to borrow money, loan it to my affiliated company and hope and pretend to myself that my tokens that are in there on my balance sheet are going to sustain their value. The next quote introduced in this class action is from SBF himself. Defendant Sam Bankman-Fried, former CEO of FTX. Lawyers write, a tweet from SBF where he says, 1, I'm sorry, that's the biggest thing. I effed up and should have done better. The lawyers write that the plaintiff, Edwin, files this class action on behalf of him and millions of other investors against all of these people. And look at these names, my friends. Woo, woo. We have Sam Bankman-Fried, Tom Brady, Gisele Bündchen, Stephen Curry, Golden State Warriors, Shaquille O'Neal, Udonis Halim, David Ortiz, William Trevor Lawrence, Shohei Ohtani, Naomi Osaka, Lawrence Jean David, Larry David, pretty good, and Kevin O'Leary, collectively named the defendants. All parties who either controlled, promoted, or assisted in, actively participated in FTX offer and sale of unregistered assets are all listed in there. Now, the introduction says, the deceptive and failed FTX platform was based on false representations and deceptive conduct. Although many incriminating FTX emails and texts have already been destroyed, we located them, and they evidence how FTX fraudulent scheme was designed to take advantage of unsophisticated investors from across this country who use mobile apps to make their investments. As a result, American consumers collectively sustained over $11 billion in damages. FTX organized and emanated its fraudulent plan from its worldwide headquarters located here in Miami. Miami became the hotspot for crypto companies, hosting the most investments in crypto startups, as well as the annual Bitcoin Miami 2022 Global Forum. Several crypto companies, including Blockchain, Ripple, and FTX US, moved their headquarters to Miami. Others, including eToro, expanded their U.S. presence in Miami as well. FTX, already familiar, they signed a deal worth $135 million for the naming rights where the Miami Heat play the stadium. In the background section, they tell us that on December 24, 2021, lawyers for Edwin bought and brought the only putative class action lawsuit against Voyager. Voyager Digital was unregulated and fraud. They also alleged that other people like Cuban and Dallas Mavericks were involved and they sustained losses. There were allegations in that complaint, and they're telling us about that complaint. Let's fast forward a little bit. Everyone involved in those other cases thought that FTX and their entities were the deus ex machina. They were going to come to save the day, right? So they give us some background on a prior crypto company that was in bankruptcy, and FTX came in. They've got all this liquidity. They say, oh, we'll come and we'll give you this money. They were going to give them $111 million, $1.13 billion, and save them. Instead, as explained below, the FTX entities imploded. Over $30 billion in value evaporated overnight. Okay, like that. $30 billion. That's like a tech company. That's like Lyft just going away. Maybe it's not. Maybe I don't even know how big they are. Pick a big $30 million market cap company. It's huge. An FTX entity, they found themselves filing their own emergency bankruptcy in Delaware. The deceptive platform FTX, maintained by the FTX entities, they say, was truly a house of cards. It was a Ponzi scheme where FTX entities shuffled customer funds around between opaque entities. They used new investor funds obtained through investments and loans to pay the interest on the old ones, and they maintained the appearance of liquidity. Part of the scheme involved utilizing some of the biggest names in entertainment, like everybody named here, to raise funds and drive consumers to invest. And it worked. Billions of dollars were poured in. The defendants disclosed their partnerships with the entities, but they never disclosed the amount of compensation they received. So in other words, they're saying that these individuals should have disclosed how much money they made from the FTX relationship. Moreover, they say none of these defendants performed any due diligence prior to marketing their products. So they're saying, Tom Brady, he didn't look into it at all. He just said, yeah, it's great. The SEC previously have gone after other people. Floyd Mayweather, DJ Khaled, they got in big trouble for ICOs, for doing this type of stuff. They had to pay back a ton of money, $776,000. Other celebrities similarly situated, Kim Kardashian and Paul Pierce, they had to send in a bunch of money back for losing more than $80 million, in large part due to big crypto scams. But these misrepresentations continue, and now this class action, seeks to hold them all responsible for billions of dollars. So let's take a look at the people who are listed as defendants. First, we have the person who's filing this lawsuit. His name is Edwin Garrisson. He's a citizen. He lives in Oklahoma. Shout out to our Oklahomans. He is a natural person over age 21. He purchased an unregistered security from FTX. He got YBA and funded the account with interest in his holdings. Garrisson did so after being exposed to some or all of the advertisements that we saw from Brady and others. As a result, Garrisson has sustained damages. Now, the defendant, Tom Brady, is an NFL quarterback currently playing for the Buccaneers. He's a brand ambassador for FTX, and he lives in Miami-Dade County. Gisele Bündchen, one of the highest paid models across the world, she's also an ambassador for FTX. Kevin O'Leary is Mr. Wonderful, a businessman, television personality on Shark Tank, also a brand ambassador, lives in Miami as well. Defendant Udonis Haslam, a professional basketball player for Miami Heat. Ortiz is a designated hitter, first baseman for MLB. Sam, of course, was the CEO of FTX. Stephen Curry plays for the Golden State Warriors, Another defendant is the Golden State Warriors in general, the entire basketball team, because they unveiled the FTX logo on the court at their arena. Shaquille O'Neal, oh, come on, man. They're going after Shaq, former professional NBL basketball player star, sports analyst, entrepreneur, and FTX brand ambassador. Quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, William Trevor Lawrence, professional baseball pitcher, Shohei Ohtani, Naomi Osaka, tennis player, and Larry David, American comedian, writer, and activist who lives in Los Angeles, California, is an FTX brand ambassador. Oh, so a lot of people here listed. Now, they say that the court has jurisdiction because a lot of this stuff happened in Florida, and they give us some background. They say, all right, until seeking the protection of the bankruptcy court, FTX operated a multi-billion-dollar crypto platform. There was a bunch of people who created a number of different exchanges. This guy is MIT educated, Sam Bankman-Fried. It was extremely successful. They were responsible for $15 billion in assets, 10% of global volume in crypto. 300 people on the FTX team, quickly became one of the most utilized avenues for nation investors. But by the time they filed for bankruptcy protection, customers had entrusted billions of dollars to them. Estimates ranging from 10 to 50 billion. Whew! Bankman got rich, with the two companies netting $350 million and $1 billion in profit alone. He was worth, at his peak, $26 billion. At 30, he became a major political donor. He got celebrities like the co-defendants to promote his company. CoinDesk placed a bombshell report questioning how big his empire really was in November 2022. It was officially broken into two parts. He had two entities, FTX, his exchange, Alameda Research, which was his trading firm. He got information from Binance that they had about half a billion in their token, and that they decided to liquidate it. Okay, so there was another exchange that said, we're about, you know what you think is valuable? We have $500 million of that thing you think is valuable. We don't think it's valuable, so we're going to sell all of it. When we sell all of it, it's going to notify everybody else that it's not valuable, and they're all going to sell it so that they get whatever remaining value is out of the token before it crashes into oblivion. Customers raced to pull out. FTX saw an estimated $6 billion in withdrawals over 72 hours, most of which it struggled to fulfill. People couldn't get their money out. The value of the FTT token plunged 32%, rallied again with a surprise announcement that FTX would be bought out, but it wasn't done. The deal never went through, and it all came crashing down. On November 11th, unable to obtain a bailout, FTX filed for bankruptcy, and Bankman resigned. Following his resignation, Bankman-Fried issued a 22-tweet-long explanation of where he believed he went wrong. He said the following on Twitter: "I'm sorry. That's the biggest thing. Oh, that's nice. I effed up and I should have done better. I also should have been communicating more very recently." Yeah, probably a good call. He says transparently, "My hands were tied during the duration of the possible Binance deal. I wasn't particularly allowed to say much publicly, but of course, it's on me that we ended up here in the first place." So here's an update on where things are. He says this is all about FTX International, the non-US exchange. FTX US users are fine. We'll see. Treat all of these numbers as rough. These are approximations. Okay, this was on November 10th. He says FTX International currently has a total market value higher than clients' deposits, but that is different from liquidity. The full story here is I'm fleshing out every detail, but long story short, I effed up. The first time, a poor internal labeling of bank-related accounts meant that we were substantially off on users' margin. I thought it was way lower. So his spreadsheets were off. Numbers are hard. He says, my sense before that our leverage was 0x, US liquidity was 24x average daily withdrawals, but in actuality, he was off by a factor of 24. Leverage was 1.7 and liquidity was 0.08x. Because of this, when it rains, it pours. We saw 5 billion of withdrawals on Sunday, the largest margin ever. And so he says, I was off twice. Tells me a lot of things that I was terrible at. And a third time, I'm not communicating enough. And so I'm sorry. Here we are. It sucks. And that's on me. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Anyway, right now, my number one priority by far is doing right by users. Well, do you have a $10 billion lying around? No, you don't. And I'm going to be doing everything I can to do that, to take responsibility. And so right now, we're spending the week doing everything we can to raise liquidity. I can't make any promises on that, but I'm going to try and give anything I have to if that will make it work. Okay. There are a number of players who we're in talks with, letters of intent, term sheets, and so on. We'll see how that goes. And every penny of that and all of the existing collateral will go straight to users. After that, investors old and new. Because at the end of the day, he says, I was CEO, which means that I was responsible for making sure that things went well. I ultimately should have been on top of everything, and I clearly failed in that. I'm sorry. And I'm not sure what this means going forward. That depends on what happens next week, but here are some things I know. One way or another, Alameda is winding down trading. They aren't doing any of the weird things that I see on Twitter, and nothing large at all. And one way or another, they're not going to be trading on FTX either. Second, in any scenario in which FTX continues operating, we're going to be focused on radical transparency. You're going to tell us who you donated all that money to? Where all of it went? Who's responsible? Who has all of that money? We can start there. He says transparently probably should have always been in giving. Giving as close to on-chain transparency as it can be is exactly what should be happening. Now, he says all of the stakeholders would have a hard look at our governance. But the only thing I'm trying to do right now is to do right by the users. At some point, I'll tell you more. But for all I can say now, at some point, I'll have to talk about a sparring partner, so to speak. But glass houses. So for now, all I'll say is well played, you won. What? What do you mean you won? You stole 10 billion bucks, brother. He says, not advice in any way. I was not very careful with my words here and do not mean them in a technical or legal sense. That's not going to hold up in court. I may well have not described things right, although I'm trying to be transparent. I'm not a good dev and probably misdescribed something. Oh, gosh. Somebody take his phone away. And finally, I sincerely apologize. We'll keep sharing updates as we have them. All right. That's his explanation. Now, the lawsuit says, well, according to a recent Reuters report, another explanation is contributing to the house of cards. Bankmen secretly transferred at least $4 billion in customer funds to Alameda without telling anyone to cover their losses. And FTX lent out more than half of its $16 billion in customer funds, with more than $10 billion in loans outstanding. So, okay, you can just see if that matches up with Sam's explanation. But the rest of this, my friends, is, a lot of sort of legalese detailing the facts about what happened. Let's fast forward and see some of the defendants in here and see what some of the allegations are. They are going after the defendants. They're saying, in addition to Sam and all of his problems, they gave a bunch of money to a bunch of influencers. They said that they used stars like Brady, Boonchen, and other defendants. They said, we're newcomers to the scene, and the company needs to familiarize consumers and beat other companies like Coinbase. In other words, FTX needed celebrities like the defendants. People like Tom and Giselle Boonchen, seen here. They were a couple. They became ambassadors. They joined the company's $20 million ad campaign. They filmed a commercial. FTX, you in? Kevin O'Leary, seen sitting here with Sam Bankman-Fried. Mr. Wonderful was a brand ambassador as well. He said on a Twitter account post, he said, to find crypto investment opportunities that met my own rigorous standards of compliance, I entered a relationship with FTX. Posted that, but then he deleted the tweet. Ugh. He also served as a judge for an FTX charity. And very recently, O'Leary stated confidently that FTX was totally compliant. He said, I have to disclose I'm a paid spokesman to FTX. And if there's ever a place I'm going to get in trouble, I'm not going to get in trouble. It's going to be FTX. We heard that quote. He also evidently posted this on some platform. Oh, it's YouTube. He said he posted this on October 12th. There are a lot of signs right now that point to things looking bad. Crypto has taken a big hit. Investors are wondering if things will turn around. If you follow history and the patterns of things, you know this is the right track. There is going to be a resurgence in crypto. He posted that on his YouTube channel. Other people like this guy, Udonis, works for the Miami Heat, plays for the Miami Heat. David Ortiz also starred in one of those commercials. We have Larry David, I guess, was in one of those commercials. Steph Curry joined on the FTX advertisement campaigns. He said, I'm not an expert and I don't need to be, right? Deferring responsibility a little bit. With FTX, I have everything I need to buy and sell safely. That was the whole selling part. They had a whole campaign called #NotAnExpert. So they reached out to everybody. FTX was the official crypto platform of the Golden State Warriors. Nobody vetted them. Shaquille O'Neal says, we couldn't keep it a secret any longer. We're partnering with the one and only Shaq Toshi, that's sort of a name that they're playing off of Satoshi Nakamoto, who is evidently the pseudo-anonymous founder of Bitcoin. Shaquille O'Neal said, I'm all in. Are you? Trevor Lawrence, World of Sports will never be the same. Signed up with Blockfolio. Shohei Ohtani, welcome to the team with FTX. He's an MLB superstar. He got unspecified payments to increase awareness about FTX. Now, to be honest, these people this is like standard stuff for these people, I don't know who's responsible for vetting all of this stuff, but I guess once they got started, once they got like Shaq, for example, they go over to Naomi and they're like, hey, Naomi, you want to sponsor FTX? She's like, what's FTX? She's like, it doesn't matter. Shaq's sponsoring us. I'm like, oh, well, if Shaq's doing it, I guess I'll do it. And this is how it goes. She's a 24-year-old professional tennis player. I assume that most of these people don't know much about crypto and they're just, getting paid to sponsor something. She confirmed her involvement by tweeting a new FTX ad to 1.1 million followers. They thought that they made the rules for us, that they could control us, and they were wrong. Here's Larry David. Larry David apparently was actually correct on this. He said, I don't trust any of this crap. For his part, the legendary comedian and creator of Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm created an ad for FTX called Don't Miss Out on Crypto. It aired during the Super Bowl in 2022, making FTX one of the most retweeted brands during the Super Bowl. The ad, the only Super Bowl commercial that David ever appeared in, featured David being a skeptic on a historically important invention as the wheel, the fork, the toilet, democracy, the light bulb, the dishwasher, the Sony Walkman, and of course, FTX. He cautioned viewers, don't be like Larry because he's a big skeptic. I never trust that. I never trust that. So they're alleging that these plaintiffs were obviously taken advantage of. These are the different, we don't talk a lot about class actions on this channel, but in order to be certified as a class, you've got to meet a class definition. They're telling us what that is here. Nationwide class, Florida subclass. We've got enough people in this class, right? Like you can't have a class if it's like you and your brother, like file a class action. It's like 3 of us. Nah, maybe not. This is a big class. Millions of consumers who use this. Do they have a common claim? Are they 2 separate claims? No, they're pretty much the same. They got ripped off and they're entitled to the same type of reliefs. The types of claims, the types of remedies are all typical. They would all be adequately represented. One of the things the court has to do is certify it as a class action before it can proceed. And so they're telling the court, yep, all the requirements have been met under the rules. Got that one, got that one. Nature of the notice. We're going to notify everybody. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it by email, mail, and a published notice. And these are the counts. They violated the Florida statutes, fair and deceptive, unfair trade practices, civil conspiracy. They made numerous misrepresentations to everybody. I don't even need to be an expert, saying that all the defendants, had knowledge of some of the problems of this, or it encouraged the wrongdoing. They want declaratory judgment. And finally, here is the prayer for relief. In the class action, they say they want damages, but we don't see an amount. We actually don't see any numbers here. So attorney's fees, injunctions, damages, all of this stuff. We'll see where this goes. But filed by Adam Moskowitz, Florida Bar, the Moskowitz Law Firm, and David Bowie, who I think we've talked about here on this channel before, I think related to maybe the GM case. So all of this submitted now, a pretty massive class action lawsuit listing a bunch of different defendants. I think the big defendant that everybody really wants is this guy right here. Shaq, okay. Yeah, but Sam is really the big problem, I think. So pretty interesting class action. And of course, we'll see where this goes. It's going to be the first of a long list of lawsuits and filings that go after FTX and SBF, as there should be many of them. Of course, we will continue to cover this stuff and more. Thank you for subscribing, following, wherever it is you're watching this. Thank you for liking this video. We'll see you on the next one.